obsessed with his dynasty's purity that he married his own daughter. This wasn't a scandal, it was sacred duty. Ramesses II, one of Egypt's greatest pharaohs, saw his daughter Bintenath as the key to securing his bloodline. But how did ancient Egypt justify what we today consider unthinkable? The answer lies in a world where royal blood was divine and incest was a strategic move to preserve power. In ancient Egypt, pharaohs weren't just rulers, they were living gods. The royal bloodline wasn't merely political, it was divine. This belief shaped everything, from temple rituals to marriage customs. When Ramesses II claimed direct descent from Amun-Ra, he wasn't exaggerating his status, he was stating theological fact. To mix royal blood with commoners would be like diluting sacred wine with water. This divinity came with a burden. Each generation had to prove its purity. Royal siblings often married to keep the bloodline strong, mimicking the gods themselves. Osiris married Isis, his sister, and pharaohs followed suit. The Hittites, Persians, and Incas later adopted similar practices, but Egypt perfected the system. A royal daughter wasn't just a princess, she was a vessel for dynastic continuity. Religious texts justified these unions. The pyramid texts, carved thousands of years before Ramesses, declared the pharaoh's body as pure as the gods. When Ramesses II took his daughter Bintenath as a wife, temple inscriptions framed it not as scandal, but as reverence. He wasn't violating taboos, he was upholding cosmic order. Ramesses took divinity seriously. He built more monuments than any pharaoh, each proclaiming his godhood. At Abu Simbel, he placed his statue alongside Ptah and Amun, demanding equal worship. To outsiders, marrying his daughter might seem shocking. To him, it was logical. Who but another divine being could share his throne? Bintenath became the perfect dynastic knot. As one priestly text calls her, she wasn't just a wife, she was the female mirror of Ramesses' divine essence. Royal women like her carried the Hathor bloodline, ensuring the next pharaoh would have pure divinity flowing through both parents. Temples celebrated these marriages with reliefs showing the royal couple blessed by gods. But rituals and carvings only tell part of the story. How did Bintenath navigate this extraordinary role? What happened when divine doctrine collided with human dynamics inside the palace walls? The gap between theology and reality would test the limits of Egypt's sacred bloodline. Bintenath grew up knowing her blood carried divine power. As Ramesses II's eldest daughter, she received education in temple rituals and diplomacy alongside her brothers. Reliefs at Luxor Temple show her as a child participating in ceremonies, handing ceremonial flails to her father, early signs of her destined role. When she reached adulthood, her transition from princess to queen wasn't shocking, it was ceremonial. The same priests who once blessed her as a daughter now consecrated her as great royal wife. Public records show Bintenath standing beside Ramesses in key moments. At the founding of the Ramesseum, she appeared as his equal in ritual scenes, offering incense to Amun. In Tanis, she presided over foreign tribute ceremonies, accepting luxury goods from Nubian envoys. These weren't passive roles. Temple inscriptions credit her with appeasing the gods through her own offerings, suggesting active religious authority. Royal women in Egypt often managed temple economies, and documents indicate Bintenath controlled flax production for priestly garments. Monuments emphasize her dual identity. The Abu Simbel small temple shows her larger than other royal women, labeled both king's daughter and king's wife. Scholars argue this wasn't accidental. The carvings forced viewers to reconcile both roles. At Karnak, A statue base depicts her embracing her father-husband while wearing the vulture headdress of queenship. The imagery walks a line modern viewers find unsettling, but contemporary texts describe it as harmonious. A stela from Memphis praises their union for joining the two lands through purity. Reactions from common Egyptians remain harder to trace. No surviving records show public outcry. Instead, ostraca fragments depict laborers writing her name in blessings. Temple workers' graffiti at Deir el-Medina include prayers to Bintanath the Great One. Whether this reflected genuine reverence or forced compliance is unclear. What's certain is that her position became normalized. Later pharaohs referenced her reign as precedent when marrying their own daughters. Ramesses' harem included over 200 women, yet Bintanath eclipsed them all. His other wives, foreign princesses, noblewomen, appeared sporadically in records. She dominated monuments and rituals, but this exclusivity came at a cost. The system designed to strengthen the dynasty would soon reveal its fatal flaw. For all the emphasis on purity, nature follows its own rules. The royal family tree, carefully pruned to preserve divinity, began showing signs of decay. Ramesses II ruled for 66 years, leaving behind a seemingly unshakable legacy. He fathered over 100 children, built colossal monuments, and expanded Egypt's borders. The empire appeared stronger than ever, yet this stability masked a growing weakness. The very system designed to protect royal divinity began undermining its future. When Ramesses finally died around 1213 BCE, the cracks surfaced immediately. His successor, Merneptah, was already in his 60s, a clear sign the younger generations lacked vitality. Subsequent pharaohs reigned briefly, with at least 5 rulers spanning just 25 years after Merneptah's death. Medical evidence tells a troubling story. Royal mummies from this period show genetic abnormalities, cleft palates, spinal deformities, and weakened bone structures. The sacred bloodline, once a source of strength, had become a biological trap. Other dynasties faced similar collapses. The Ptolemaic pharaohs, who also married siblings, saw increasing stillbirths and mental instability in later generations. Cleopatra VII, their most famous ruler, was the first in her line to marry outside the family, a move that came too late. The Habsburgs of Europe experienced jaw deformities and infant mortality after centuries of cousin marriages. Biology consistently defies political designs for purity. Ramesses' carefully planned succession unraveled. His sons predeceased him, forcing power into elderly hands. One grandson, Ramesses III, survived multiple assassination attempts, including one organized within his harem. The Turin judicial papyrus records how secondary wives plotted to kill him to elevate their own sons. The sacred family splintered into factions. Temple records from late in the dynasty tell another story. Priests began interpreting droughts and failed harvests as divine displeasure. A papyrus from year 29 of Ramesses III's reign blames impurity in the royal house for Nile flooding failures. The gods, it seemed, no longer favored the bloodline they once blessed. By the 20th dynasty, foreign invaders attacked with impunity. The Sea Peoples raided the Delta, while Libyans infiltrated the government. A once mighty bureaucracy crumbled under corruption. Workers at Deir el-Medina went on strike when rations failed to arrive, something unthinkable in Ramesses II's time. The irony is stark. A dynasty that spent centuries protecting its purity fell not from external conquest, but internal decay. Ramesses built his legacy on stone, but forgot that flesh follows different rules. What began as divine strategy ended as Darwinian warning. History shows us ambitious systems that ignored nature's laws. But what does this mean for how we understand power today? The pursuit of purity often carries unexpected costs. Rameses II built an empire on the belief that purity equaled power. Yet his dynasty's greatest strength became its fatal weakness. Sacred bloodlines preserved divinity, but they couldn't escape biology's laws. The same marriages meant to secure power ultimately weakened it. This raises uncomfortable questions. How far is too far in the pursuit of control? History shows us rulers who crossed moral and genetic lines, all in the name of preservation. Their choices echo beyond antiquity, forcing us to examine our own boundaries. Where do you draw the line between duty and excess? Share your perspective below. These ancient stories still speak to us now,